Hello and welcome to the Impact Toolkits program. I'm going to keep this pretty brief because this is are we on number 7, Robin, of
Think so.
10 one-hour workshops, facilitated by experts in each topic, recorded and shared on the Impact Toolkit program. Hopefully, you know all of this. If not, we will share the details. But I know we have one newbie this week who wanted to just check how long the session was. But I think most of you, there's lots of familiar names there. So welcome back, number 1. So, and you know all of this, you know what's going on. This is me and Robin. I like the way that your avatar's waving at my avatar. That's all good. So we are your hosts. I'm the host for the entirety of these workshops. And as most of you know, this is a pilot. We have created these 10 sessions based upon feedback from academics in the kind of arts and humanities sector. And it's all around giving you the assets to create your toolkits, the inspiration, the knowledge of what software solutions are out there, what you could do. Basically, that's the whole purpose of these 10 sessions, is to say, hey, you're thinking about making a toolkit. What does that mean? Does it mean a podcast? Does it mean a webinar? Does it mean a website? Does it mean playing around in Canva? This is what we've been talking about. If you've missed any of those, they're all up on the platform. Housekeeping. The way this is being run, it is a webinar because we are recording it and we're putting it on our platform. So you can't ask questions in chat. Pop it in Q&A and I will be answering them as we see them and working through them, but trying to make sure that this is really a good thing for people to watch back. What's coming up? So today we're doing interactive tools to engage the audience. Next week we have low code and no code, which basically means if you're not a techie, you can actually build a lot of things these days without our expert Mark Cordroy. 3rd of July, making podcasts. Pretty self-explanatory, but we've got some people who've made podcasts, and also we have someone joining us from the Swindon Wiltshire Institute of Technology to talk about how they help students make podcasts and what a good setup looks like. That's someone who used to work for the BBC helping us with that. And the 10th of July is kind of bringing these all together into tools and platforms to build your community. That was the short version of the intro because you've all heard it before. So today, using interactive tools to engage your audience. So starting different conversations, and making it interesting for everybody working on the project or working on the development of your toolkit. So we're going to be having a bit of a fly through, Robin and I, as a tag team, of a selection of tools. Not every tool available in all of these topics because we've only got half an hour for this bit, but giving you some inspiration about why you should use these tools and where to get started. And most of the tools we're looking at today all have a free baseline option. They might have paid as you get more into them, but it's all about being accessible, engaging, and also uh, impactful basically for your conversations going forward. So we're looking at surveys, idea sharing, online communication, AI tools. We're not going to go too far down that rabbit hole, and a bit of mapping because Rob and I both like our AI tools, so we had to limit ourselves on that one. And then in the second half of today, so as you probably hopefully read from the outline, this is a webinar of 2 halves. We're going to talk lots of tools, have a play around some ideas, and then we're going to hear from Paul, from the University of Bristol, around his project and his example of his toolkit, which is really visual and engaging. And I'm not going to tell you too much more about that. So the first place we wanted to start with tools was survey tools, because a common denominator in a lot of projects is you have identified your audience. We've talked about this in previous sessions. You know, you have people you want to talk to. How do you engage them? Whether they are in the room with you, whether they're online, whether you have got small groups, large groups, you want to use tools that help you capture this information, give you comparable data. And you're probably looking at this slide and thinking, I know a couple of these, but oh look, there's a purple dinosaur. So we wanted to talk a little bit about what these tools are and how they vary, and how you might seek to use them. And another key point here is that these tools create data which is all very comparable. So you could use a number of these. We don't want to overcomplicate things. They all have sort of pros and cons. So if we start off with the in-person engagement, and again, this is not the limitless list. This is just 2 that Robin and I have both used with Slido and Mentimeter. And I hope you've all used these. These are really good fun. I think I've been to events where one of the things I like the best about this event is you can ask me questions in the moment. But if you've got a room full of people and you're in the audience, you have a question, you have to wait until there's a pause. And then by the time you've put your hand up, that point has totally gone. So a very simple way of using this is to get people who are more confident, make people more confident to ask questions. That's the other thing as well. Sometimes if you've got a big group, you don't want to ask a silly question. You can ask anonymous questions on these. So if you don't really know what you don't know, you can ask questions. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. So what you have, I'm going to play a very short video for Slido because it just made it much easier than me explaining it. So let's hope the sound works.
Are you a speaker, trainer, or manager wanting to run more interactive meetings and presentations? If so, you'll definitely want to try Slido.
Slido is the ultimate Q&A and live polling platform that creates a conversation between you and your audience. If you want to make your presentation truly exceptional, you have to engage your attendees, and Slido does that for you.
Polls are a great way to get your participants involved, both remote and in person, whether you want to find out how they feel, collect feedback, or simply to break the ice. With Slido quizzes, you can bring a bit of fun into your meeting and present information and numbers in a way that's easy to remember.
Do you have people in your audience who are scared to speak up? With Slido questions, they too have a voice. And you can even see which questions are the most important using upvotes.
And the great thing is that Slido can be used for live, virtual, or even hybrid meetings. And to make your life easier, Slido integrates with Google Slides, PowerPoint, and Microsoft Teams so that you have everything all in one place.
Oh, and all the data you've collected, it's safely stored. So you can export it, analyze it, and use it to make your presentations even better. So that's it. Slido's intuitive, easy, and your audience does not have to download anything. Try it yourself and make your presentations more conversational and interactive with Slido.
Are you a speaker, trainer?
That was a strong jumper game going on there, wasn't it? Oh, someone had a problem with the screen. Robin, could you see that?
Yes, I could see that came through fine on this side.
Oh, I apologize. Now, Sane, I'm hoping I'll get your name right. What I'll do is we will share these slides, so you'll have that link, but I do apologize that wasn't working for you. It was a bit American and cheesy, but what I like about Slido is it's very interactive and very engaging, and that was quite a corporate perspective, but it can be used, I've seen it used in very casual meetings, and same with Mentimeter. What I quite like with Mentimeter is the way it displays the responses. I like their word clouds. So I think as an audience, I have personally, I'm not going to play you another video, don't worry. I find Mentimeter a little bit more fun. And what I didn't know before I did the research for this is it's something, used by 97 of the world's top 100 universities. And the fact that it really gets into where Slido felt quite corporate in its approach. You've got icebreakers, quizzes, polls, fun and games. It is a good way to just, if you're doing a room-based research, I know sometimes the participants can come in feeling a bit nervous or a bit worried that it's a test. I think you can use a lot of these tools to just change the energy at the beginning and then keep the conversation going using that different energy. Yeah, I'll say this. Yeah, good stuff. So you knew it anyway. Thank you very much for letting me know. So I'd have a look at those two for fun, for ice breaking, for in the moment engagement. But if you want something more in depth, or you want to gather insight or do a more formal interview structure, these are the tools that I'd consider looking at. Now, I things like Google Forms is pretty self-explanatory. That very much is more formal, isn't it? Sort of going through question by question by question. Some are asterisks, some are not. Very good for a transactional yes, no, A to B, comfort scale conversation. Very good for one-to-many. Similar with SurveyMonkey. Those are very good for that kind of conversation where you're doing maybe asking 1,000 people some very basic questions.
I was
If you
just going to say on Google Forms and also Microsoft Forms, one of the things I've started seeing is academics using it to track their impact. So they set up a form for themselves about, the date, the activity that they're doing and where they are and the number of people they're engaged. And that form
cool.
then basically fills out every time they fill it out, every time they do an activity, and that fills out a database, a document in Excel, sorry, an Excel sheet that that then they can refer to and see, well, here's all the things I've done and here's all the impact that it's led to. And it's really good, I think, so that they can do it quickly and come back to it at a later stage.
That's really good. Yeah, because that's another thing is tracking all these great conversations you're having is sometimes quite challenging. So what I wanted to do is give you a little bit of a insight into one which I'm assuming that most of you won't have heard of. I know, Robin, you'd not heard of the wonderful purple dinosaur of the Impactosaurus before. I used this for a project in East Sussex where we interviewed around 80 sole founders, mainly women or of ethnic minorities. And what we needed to do in these 90-minute conversations was to understand their confidence, their challenges. And it was a little bit like a psychometric test where you're asking the same question from lots of different angles around. It was finance, what they wanted from their business, how they personally felt supported within their family, but also, as a business founder. It was pretty intense as a conversation. And the Impactosaurus, the way that it was set up, we created our own questionnaire, but they do also have a bank of questionnaires as well. But it created a very gentle conversation that got some amazing results, but again, all very comparable. And we would send people their lovely charts at the end of it with the categories we created around finance, business support, confidence, sales, money, whatever it may be. So we could reflect back to them what they had told us they needed through that interview and through that intervention. And then we had the comparable data across the 80 or 90 founders that we spoke to feed back into, it was East Sussex Council we were working for at that point, to then feed in the support that demographic needed in their community. So I like the complexity, I like the approach, I like the whole energy of this platform, and I liked its research base as well. I only saw this because of the project. It's not one that I could find, and it's free, and it's a really great form for having a different conversation. So not one that you could use, as Robin, as you say, for collecting that data, but a good way to collate it and impact reports. And they're using our language in this spreadsheet already, aren't they, Robin? So it's always good. I'm not going to talk too much about Typeform, but one of my favorite things about Typeform are the decision trees. I don't know about you, Robin. I would map this out on a bit of paper or Miro, which we're coming to. The complex of your decision tree is working out what the decision tree needs to be. But if you're taking someone on a slightly more complex journey of conversation around requirements or whatever more confidences or whatever that might be, Typeform's capability is really powerful in this. And that's not something that Google Forms I'm aware of could do, or that Impactosaurus could do. But this level of complexity in conversation, because I know as a user, it's quite interesting to follow that journey. So it can create a really engaging experience. Because that's the other thing. If you're being asked to fill in a survey, most of us would want to do that. We're all quite curious. But I also want it to be a good experience for me. And I also want to see my outputs. So I did a little kind of, as you can see, listings. I was looking at on search engines around what other options there are. Some of these I've never heard of. Robin, are there any off here that you've used? I've heard of Zoho, obviously, and Zapier. Feathery, there's a lot out there. We don't want to, going down rabbit holes. Might be a bit of a theme of some of these workshops, but hopefully I think the ones that we've just mentioned might be useful. But there's a lot out there, so go out and find the ones that best work for you. So I told you this was a quick whiz round. The bit that follows on really nicely from that gathering of the information is then what you do with that and how you share ideas. We have mentioned a couple of these tools in different ways, actually, Robin. We've mentioned Miro and FigJam when we were looking at building websites, didn't we? But I think we've also mentioned Miro when we were looking at Canva, because Canva has, there's a real overlap of platforms here. But if you are starting conversations, if you're trying to engage your audience in a different way, I've seen, especially Miro, used to great effect. And I've had meetings online like this with multiple stakeholders across the UK where everybody's busy grabbing their post-it notes and putting their ideas down. Now, okay, a caveat around Miro is facilitation, is it can go a little bit nuts if you don't give it a really clear output and ask. But I find this creates a much more productive meeting. over kind of going through bullet points or asking people for their going around the room kind of idea. So even if you're in a room with people, this is kind of the equivalent of getting up and doing the post-it notes, but at least this way you keep it rather than someone having to write up the post-it notes, which we've all also had to do. So I have another very short video. You can do anonymous comments and questions on Miro. You don't have to be visible. And I think you can anonymize all of these. So Google Forms, Typeform, Impactosaurus, I think all of them have that admin control that you can give anonymized answers if you set that up as the host. Robin, what's your experience on that?
I don't use it for anonymous but definitely on Miro. So if you're on Miro and you don't log in, it comes up as anonymous for it. We use Miro quite a bit when we're doing things like theory of change with small groups. So where they're in different places, and it's a really good sort of way of getting people to sort of work through and align with what might be the actual sort of long-term benefits from their projects, because in all the projects they're doing good things, and it's about sort of working through and kind of coming to the end result of saying, actually, well, where are we going to get to at the end of this, and who's going to benefit and in what way, and getting to those answers actually can take a bit of time. But Miro is a great tool.
Great facilitator tool for that, isn't it? And this video, again, as all of them, they always talk to corporate, so I apologize for some of the language. This guy's jumper game's not as strong as the last one, though. So there's I think this is 1.5 minutes. So let's just see how Miro positions itself, because there were some elements in this video that I didn't know. Because again, as we said about Canva, these tools update every 5 minutes, it feels. They're always listening to their user feedback. So let's just see a little bit more on Miro.
What is Miro? Miro is the visual workspace for innovation. Work in Miro happens on boards, which are infinite canvases built for collaboration. Miro enables us to create diagrams and process maps, facilitate engaging workshops, run product development workflows, and synthesize wide-ranging content in a single place. Imagine that our organization is refocusing on customer centricity, and so we're taking a deeper look at all the feedback we've received. We import thousands of comments to a Miro board, which come in as sticky notes. Miro can then cluster them for us by keywords or sentiment. We bring in context like charts, documents, and diagrams, and we keep looking. And then it appears. Because everything is in front of us, we find a new insight that could be the start of the next big thing. It's time to bring in stakeholders to pressure test this idea further. Using Miro's templates, we'll throw together a short workshop that will encourage honest and thorough conversations with our group. Everyone joins the board, and we watch as the idea transforms through mapping exercises, risk analyses, and voting sessions. At the end of our workshop, we find that our initial idea grew into a strategic initiative for the business because it was formed collaboratively. Imagine that we're now entering the planning phase, and we need to map dependencies across the different project teams, but no one has the availability to meet. What are we going to do? We'll work asynchronously on our board to map dependencies. Everyone edits the board on their own time. The work we do is even synced with Jira through Miro's robust integration. Occasionally, something needs a little more explanation asynchronously, so we'll send video walkthroughs of the board back and forth to stay aligned, a feature in Miro called TalkTrack. Everything we've seen in this example can be on a single board in Miro. When the project moves on from planning to execution, we can continue adding to this board or create new boards for the different pieces of work. Design sprints, architecture diagrams, Obeya rooms, roadmaps, and so much more. It can all be done in Miro.
That does a lot more than I remembered, Robin. I like the fact you could put that Excel spreadsheet in and it would make it into different colored post-it notes, which you then start voting on. That all looked really, really cool. So that's the whiz through of Miro. If you haven't used it, definitely have a go. It's a really powerful tool. You're probably going to know most of these icons on here. So online communication. When we're sat on a Zoom call right now, we spent a lot of time on these, didn't we? And we still probably do quite a lot. Teams, Microsoft Teams, Google Meets, we use a lot. Those are quite standard platforms. For this kind of more traditional workshop or webinar or even team meeting, you may not have heard of Hopin. Hopin and Remu are more around multifaceted events online. So with Hopin, you can have a stage, you can have breakout rooms. With Remu, you can do group chat. So they've got a lot more functionality. If you actually, they were used to run conferences in lockdown. Hopin actually started, I think, in 2019. I think it was quite a new business when we went into lockdown, and at TechSpark we used it all the time for our events because it has such great functionality beyond Zoom, which obviously now they've caught up. But one of the key things of doing events online, like we are today, is the data that you're capturing. We're recording this session, and if you're having team meetings or workshops or webinars and you're recording them, you've got some assets you can use to further your project, further your idea, expand the conversation. And for this project, for example, as you all know, we've been putting the videos onto the platform. We've been cutting the videos down, creating little sound bites, but using a video editing tool. And we've also been looking at things like running them through AI. So Fireflies, which will be my final video, I promise you, a little video in a sec about that. These tools can take the content from your meeting and create actions and a lovely kind of, you can write an article from it if you wanted to. You suddenly get another way of using this information rather than you have a really great conversation and you're trying to write it down. We've all had to do that, trying to keep meeting notes. You can pop one of these into your meeting, into your call. If you're doing an interview with somebody, research interviews, as long as they're happy to be recorded, you can use this tool and then you have it all written up for you. And they've come such a long way. These used to be awful. You'd read back the transcripts and they'd get almost every other word wrong. I remember when it was like the next big thing about 10 years ago and they were hideous. They're really, really excellent. Now, there are going to be some words they struggle with, but the power of these tools to make your life easier. There's a narrative here, isn't there? On technology, is the stuff we used to have to do. By them writing it up, we then get comparable data, and we can put 10 or 12 interviews into a search engine and start asking questions of it as if we're basically having all the recipients in one room together. So my final little video, because I'm aware that time is flying by, is just to show you how Fireflies works. Bear with me.
With Fireflies, your team can remember everything from your meetings. Our AI assistant, Fred, captures, transcribes, and takes meeting notes for you. After the meeting,
Oh, Fireflies.
search,
Oh, there you go.
listen,
Back.
share, and collaborate seamlessly. Fireflies can surface action items, important topics, and other key highlights. It'll even fill out your CRM and push notes to the apps where you already work. Need to provide feedback to teammates? Easily flag important parts of calls or leave comments at specific sections. Create shareable sound bites of the most memorable moments. Having better meetings means fewer meetings. Make your team more productive today. Try Fireflies for free.
That fell over for me in the middle, Robin. We had to have at least one take fell today, didn't we? That was all good. But I've used Fireflies a lot for doing research calls and those research interviews and collating information. I was doing some work for University of Bristol, interviewing people about how they gained access to information around quantum, 6G, and advanced technologies. And I recorded all of those conversations so I could then do some comparable information to feed back into the project for the focus of our content. So it was a really good way of doing it. Now, I have to be honest, there are some people who don't want to be recorded. That's absolutely fair. I had to go old school, make notes. And there were a couple of people from banks I interviewed where you couldn't put Fireflies onto the call with them for security reasons. So it'll always have its challenges, but it's a really good way to get your data collated really easily. And they say, try it for free. Now, AI tools, there's a lot out there. Apple had updates last week, wasn't it, to their AI for world domination. I mean, I have very mixed emotions about them, and I know there are some concerns about the use of them, but there's a lot out there doing a lot of good. And I wanted to just talk about how I use them. I'm very lucky, and this is chat 4.0. I'm very lucky that a project I'm working on has given me access to this, but I just thought that these tools, to be fair, Robin, were just for a bit of fun. I hadn't really thought about how I would practically apply them. And I was very aware that we shouldn't be using chat to write things for us. I know that not only is that ethically not okay, but also it doesn't get found in search on SEO. But it's the Sparkies, which is the TechSpark Tech Awards on the 11th of July. That's our logo, and I put our logo into there. Oh, there's a question around data security issues with AI apps like Fireflies. The content, I can't say for sure on all of them. I would check for each one where that data is used. It's a really good question. I'm not going to pretend that I'm an expert on that. I would say I would check who you use and where they would store the data. And Robin and I were talking about that with all of these AI tools. What you put into it is your personal decision. Nothing that I was doing in the meetings I've been recording was anything confidential. There was nothing that would not be in the public domain. It's mainly opinion based. Robin, what are your thoughts on that one?
Sorry. I don't know the detail either, but what I do know is I now see quite a lot of organizations using them. And I imagine that means that they have secure and clear data policies that basically allow organizations to be able to use them.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. So back to my creating an award. So it's our award ceremony, and because I happen to have Chat 4, which is paid, but it's only I think $18. We had fun designing a trophy. Great fun on that. And again, another example of I use Chat 4 since I've had it to take my thoughts further. It's not replacing my creative process. It's not meaning I'm not using my intelligence, but this is an event I'm running tomorrow. And I didn't really know where to start. To be honest, on this event, I am the host for the event. I'm working with some neurodiverse founders, and I wanted to create something for my co-host to edit for the evening. So I used this to kind of give me a steer for what it could look like to then give it to her to edit. So it gave in 2 minutes, I've created the outline. And my final example of basically my call to action on this bit is go and explore. If you're thinking about creating a graphic, if you're looking to start writing a piece and update your web content, Robin, we were talking about building your website. Chat is really good for getting you going. You put all your data in, obviously, nothing here that's confidential, and it'll start giving you some ideas. And you can say, make it more formal, make it more fun, And like on this one, this is for a newsletter. I just needed a little icon, a picture. Yes, you can go and get assets, but you might have to pay for them. That does what it says in the tin. Okay, you look on the table, it's got some very strange things on it, but that was for my newsletter. It'll be used once, and it took me 30 seconds. It was absolutely brilliant. I mean, when we say talking about AI tools, what Rob and I were talking about when we were putting this together is literally, I mean, that could have every logo on that slide, couldn't it? Everything has an AI in it now, and has done for quite a while, whether it's predictive text, whatever it may be. AI is everywhere, but I would thoroughly recommend you having a play with. I mean, this is the paid chat. The free chat is really good, and all the graphics we've used for this, all these webinars have been created on ChatGPT. It's a really fun rabbit hole to go down. Robin, you love a bit of an AI tool, don't you?
Thanks, Lucy. Yes, I do. You'll have to drive these slides for me if you can.
Of course.
So I do think there's a great conversation going on at the moment, covering ethical, legal, data confidentiality sort of side of things. We're not obviously kind of covering that. But it's worthwhile, I think, always just being aware of what's kind of going on. Two great places to start. I think if you want to kind of go down the rabbit hole, so to speak, there's two great directories out there, futuretools.io and Futurepedia. And so that these directories will basically be a gateway to see all the new kind of developments, what people are using across a whole range of different things. So there are many things that might be applicable to the types of resources and toolkits that you're kind of creating. Everything from, actually needing to detect where AI has been used to, sort of stuff like where you're trying to increase and improve workflows, video editing tools, etc. So these are two great, I think, sites to start with. And we've got, we've got other experts out there that could spend a lot of time talking about these things. But for us, I'll just talk about a few things that I use at the moment, mainly for non sort of work kind of purposes, but ideogram is a brilliant image generator. And actually, so the background that I use here is an image created from ideogram. So it's very simply that you just create prompts, and then it creates images, and then you can actually then evolve and improve those images too. So this image behind me is the room that I would like to be sat in, but for various reasons, that's not usually possible. So that's one. Another tool that I use quite a lot is Perplexity, which essentially is a new type of search engine. And what it does is it essentially goes out and, you ask it a question, it goes out and looks across multiple different areas, pulls the information together. So it's a live search, and it tells you where it's pulling that information for. So for example, what is Synthesia AI? And it will give you a whole list, and it will give you a list of then, sort of follow-up possible questions. You can click into where the information has come from. So a great way to get information fast and understand where it's kind of coming from. And so the next example is Synthesia AI, which is another one which we kind of use from time to time, which is very much about video generation. So you can just create text, and that will allow you to develop avatars and whole videos. Essentially, if you're someone like me and doesn't feel very happy being on video, then this is a great way to do that. And it can do everything from generating the content and the video to working with what you have already.
Now we have a question from Liz around the issues around ethics of image creation, considering that the data is scraped from real life artists. Are there assets that take that into consideration when you're looking at the AI? I think there are.
Yeah, and I think it's worth being aware as well. And this is not to dodge the question, but this conversation has been going on pre-AI. So you will have a lot of new age artists that are taking images from elsewhere. There's stuff around even where Banksy has drawn images from. Shepard Fairey as well created the iconic Obama picture, Hope, and all of these things kind of come back to where it's being where stuff is being created. The things with the tools now is they're also developing tools to establish what images have been used. So it is both part of the challenge and part of the solution, I think, from that sort of side. It's worth saying with this one image behind me, I think you definitely draw the line where you start thinking about using it for commercial purposes. For now, it seems to be okay. But that remains to be seen. So moving away from AI, just to a couple of mapping tools that kind of have come up a few times in recent conversations. So one in terms of actual geographical maps. One of the tools that you can use quite easily, it's very simple around Google My Maps, and this builds a little bit, Lucy. So if you just add the next box, so you can take any database, so for example, ranking universities, and then you can just upload that into Google Maps, and it will give you locations, and it provides all the same functionality as you would expect with maps, so that you can drill down to street level, and essentially you can integrate this into websites anywhere you want. So you could be showing information around your partners, your collaborators. It can be on a local level or a national level. So very quick and handy tool, where some people are, previously asking to essentially get bespoke software. Actually,
This used to be really hard to do.
This used to be big, challenging, and now
it's so easy, and it's just a great way of you visualizing, all the people you've interviewed, for example. Talk about those people in East Sussex. If they were all like little pins, you could see that, geographically we've spoken to everyone across the county. That's great for your client, isn't it, and that project?
Yeah, and in this example as well, you can just go to the next piece on this. You can show any level of information that you want, so there's very little here, but you can add in layers of data and complexity into it. So then on the last one I think I'll show is around another type. So if you're doing kind of ecosystem maps, if you're looking at categories and subcategories, if you're needing to show information. So for this example, we were doing a national database of social venture. organizations that support social ventures. So we created categories, subcategories, and essentially, you can go down, in this example, going through the other funding. It would show you all the different sort of subcategories of other funders, crowdfunding, impact funding, trusts, and then you click through and essentially you get the information you want. So this is really useful if you've got data and information that you are trying to help in your toolkit others to navigate sort of through, and that can kind of cover a wide range of sort of things.
It feels really engaging. I was going to say it's really visual, but obviously that's in the name, really, isn't it? But yeah, it feels engaging. It feels like something you want to start clicking on and exploring.
Yeah, and it just sort of helps you sort of like break down actually what do I really need, or where do I want to go first. And with this, I mean, this particular one is online if you want to look at it, but you can have an online, offline sort of version as well. It's the data that kind of runs it. So if anybody wants to follow up on that, you can contact me to know a bit more, because I think we need to cut across to Paul. Thank you so much, Paul, and forgive me for overrunning a little bit there. So Paul from the University of Bristol, Department of Theatre, will essentially, I think, allow you to do your introduction and talk about Future Places Toolkit.
Thanks a lot, Robin. I'm just going to try and share my slides. 1 second.
Perfect.
There we go. Everyone should be able to see. Yeah, thanks for that. That was very interesting, Lucy and Robin. You've shared some tools that that I know and have worked with, and some that I haven't, that are new to me.
Perfect. So we apologise in advance for the rabbit hole we've just sent you down. You're going to go and explore them now, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm going to be checking out future tools, and yeah, probably playing with a few of the tools that you've suggested. And maybe one thing to share is thinking about the AI tools. The partner that I've been working with on software development, they resisted for a while, but they have been working with AI both in their kind of copy writing, even in sort of blog writing, and also in their 3D environment and design of kind of 3D resources. So yeah, interesting. They started to take that up. So I'm going to share the story, I guess, of Future Places Toolkit with you, which is the software tool that I've been working on with partners. And yeah, I hope that's useful. There'll be chance for some questions and for me to respond afterwards. Keep those in mind, or drop them in the chat. And if you want to interrupt, that's okay too. So I'm Paul Clarke, as Robin said, and I'm Associate Professor of Performance and Creative Technologies at University of Bristol. I'm from the School of Arts, where I teach theatre, particularly though on the Immersive Arts MA. And I'm also a member of the Centre for Socio-Digital Futures, where I'm leading a strand of work around speculative design. And I'm interested at the moment broadly in exploring creative approaches to participatory futuring. So ways in which immersive technologies and performance can support people to imagine better or preferable futures together, and how that can involve them in decision making, including in policy. So I'm going to talk about Future Places Toolkit, engaging people with planning through augmented reality. And that's a project that's been supported by my University Enterprise Fellowship, which I've been working on through this year. Maybe one other introductory thing to say is that most of the research I do is practice as research, which I carry out collaboratively with the theatre company that I co-direct, uninvited guests. And on this particular project, we have another partner that's named there, and I've already mentioned Zuba, which are a Bristol-based AR and VR studio. So in 2018, a bit of background, uninvited guests and sound designer Duncan Speakman were commissioned by Bristol's Watershed and Smart Internet Lab to explore the creative potential of 5G for their layered realities showcase in Millennium Square. And we made the augmented reality performance Millennium. Instead of a historical guided tour, Millennium is a guided tour of the future of a place. It's since gone on to tour to Stripe, Festival of Art and Technology, and Dutch Design Week, which are both in Eindhoven. And then it's shown in Bilbao, Budapest, and Belgrade as part of Uninvited Guests Perform Europe and Creative Europe funded Performing Futures Tour, which you're seeing a video of at the moment. Coming from Bristol, it was clearly one of our criteria for partners that they were all in cities beginning with B for this tour to Bilbao, Budapest, and Belgrade. Slightly strange criteria. So you're seeing a little bit of video of that. In each of these places, people who participated suggested approaches from this artwork from Millennium could be applied in urban planning. So the challenge, well, planning consultation can be pretty dry. Maybe some of you have experienced it. Tends to look a bit like this. Some boards on the walls of a local hall. And consultation tends to take place away from the site that's being developed, and is often assumed to have little impact. It's hard for people to visualize or imagine what plans would look like in their context when they're represented in 2D away from where they're going to be built. Sorry, I can't get to my next page, which is very helpful. Oh, there we go. So what we thought was, wouldn't it be good if people's reactions to planning consultation were a little bit more like this? Or maybe this. So this is the problem for council planners, regen teams, architects, and developers. How can you engage more people with consultation and people who are more representative of local communities? How can you get residents involved in shaping better futures for their neighbourhoods, in improving plans for developments in their places, plans that are better aligned with their wants and needs and that they can buy into and support going forward? So Future Places Toolkit responds to that challenge by exploring whether creative methods and technologies, in this case science fiction storytelling and augmented reality, can get a wider range of people involved in discussing plans, and whether these conversations can be more meaningful and constructive in context in the site that's being developed. Stay on that one maybe. So it's worth saying that Future Places Toolkit has become a set of software rather than a web or paper-based toolkit that guides placemaking or creative consultation. That would have been another approach that we could have taken, but we wanted to develop creative and immersive tools for shaping places and also to offer our own consultation or engagement activity using these. So Future Places Toolkit uses AR, augmented reality, on smartphones to enable people to visualize what's planned and to co-create improvements to their neighborhoods. As people describe what they want to see in their place or how a development could be, they see their ideas appear on their screens, sketched live by an artist who's listening in remotely and drawing in VR. They get to see what the changes would be like visualized in AR, overlaid onto the place where the development is planned, and to explore what the changes would be like in 3D and in situ. As with Millennium, we also use immersive sound, so there's a sound aspect too, and we hope that supports people's imaginations. So sound designer Duncan Speakman draws on a library of location sounds and effects to conjure up live the atmospheres of the place in future, the place that people describe. So with Bristol-based AR and VR studio Zuba, we've now developed fully functional prototype software for Future Places Toolkit, and that's what you're seeing on screen. The software development was supported by My World and Digital Catapult through their Catalysts and Connectors Tools for the Creative Industries scheme, with Digital Catapult also providing a series of business development workshops and mentoring, and I'll come back to that mentoring. So with the support of my University Enterprise Fellowship, we've got to the point where we can offer the AR planning consultation and engagement service, and I can run that with my partners, Zuba and uninvited guests. We've proved the concept and demand. Oh, sound for this one, don't want that. We've proved the concept and demand through initial stakeholder and user testing with Forward Broadway Working Group and Bristol City Council in Knoll West, and that's what you're seeing a video of, engaging people with plans for improvements to their high street, but also with Architects Stride Triglawn and at Birmingham Settlements Neighbourhood Futures Festival. Then, with AHRC Impact Acceleration Account funding, we tested our creative method with Bristol City Council as part of their Temple Quarter engagement. And Temple Quarter is, I think, the largest regeneration or redevelopment project in the UK, perhaps even in Europe at the moment. In light of the success of this, the Temple Quarter redevelopment team have commissioned us to run the AR activity again commercially for a fee of £4,000. So that's our first time running the service commercially. And we're also part of a team led by Architecture 00, which submitted a successful tender to Bristol City Council for the Filwood Broadway High Street Development Plan, which will use Future Places Toolkit for engagement, visualizing improvements, and consulting on possible scenarios for that high street. So we're now able to offer the AR engagement service to market this. To market this to councils and architects, and to be a partner on multidisciplinary design teams on regeneration projects. So yeah, we've also been included. So we're able to offer the engagement activity, the engagement service, and to be on design teams on regeneration projects, as well as the project in Filwood Broadway. We were included in a team. We've been included in teams for other tenders, for instance, for Bristol's Western Harbour public consultation. Unfortunately, that one, we were not part of the successful team. So we've also been showcasing in creative technology contexts, like, for instance, TechSpark's Bath Digital Festival and the My World showcase, which this is a picture of. And we're looking to showcase at architecture conferences too, and professional architecture showcases. So something about next steps. So the hope is now to scale the service up and to offer it to other councils, regen teams, architects, and creative consultants. But an important thing to say is that it's also a social venture. So the aim is to disrupt planning processes, to make consultation more accessible, meaningful, and impactful for communities, to engage more representative people in shaping the future of their places. There's some further software development to take Future Places Toolkit from a working prototype to a fully functioning and easy to use software tool for in situ architectural co-design, visualizing and discussing plans in context. And at the moment, we're seeking impact acceleration account or innovation funding for that software development. We also want to hone and validate the business model for delivering the AR planning consultation service commercially ourselves. We've been receiving really useful mentoring from Robin and the research commercialization team around business development, but also from businesses and organizations working in the sector, from Make Good, from Architecture 00, Stride Treglown, and also from the council's Regen team. And My World funded this mentoring, and that's something I'd like to share, that's been really valuable, drawing on the specific expertise about the sector you're working in. So then to scale up or out, and this is a kind of summary slide, but then in order to scale up or out, we want to take Future Places Toolkit from being an engagement service, which we can deliver ourselves, which Zuba and uninvited guests can deliver, to being a software as a service offer that customers, architects, councils, and creative consultants and designers can run themselves. So enabling impact at scale and wider distribution nationally or internationally. The idea would be to develop an accessible software tool set that's flexible and adaptable to offer a solution for other sectors in need of XR co-design tools. So also enabling horizontal scaling to other sectors like event design or planning or product prototyping, collaborative product prototyping. So at the moment, we need to do some market research and analyze competitors, particularly in the area of software as a service. And then we need to produce some strong visual promotional material to differentiate Future Places Toolkit and to effectively market this offer. And our hope is that will also make the case for a spin-out company. So we're exploring funding for that business development at the moment. And we have heads of terms that have been signed and agreed with Zuba and uninvited guests, which outline our shared ambition to create a spin-out. Our sense is that a spin-out would consolidate and develop the partnership and become a vehicle for delivering Future Places Toolkit. It would support the scaling up and sustainability of this commercial and social venture, plus open up future investment opportunities. So I hope this is useful for other people trying to develop their own toolkits or software tools. Do take a look at uninvited guests or Zuba's website to see what we're working on, and drop any questions you have into the chat. Thanks a lot for listening, and thanks to Lucy and Robin for the invitation.
Thanks, Paul. And gosh, it was fun at Bath History Festival. And unfortunately, it was the Wednesday lunchtime. So I was running one of these webinars with Robin. So I couldn't come and walk around Queen Square, changing the face of Bath. But how long has this taken from idea through to now?
Well, as you can tell, it's taken a few years. So Millennium, which I guess was the artwork output, the Practice Does Research output that Future Places Toolkit applies or is adapted from, that was made in 2018. So that's some time ago. Of course, that then went on to be developed and to tour. But yeah, this is several years and a few different pots of money and funding, that's enabled this, and that funding's come from Impact Acceleration Account, and as I say, also from My World, particularly for the software development.
I was saying, in 7 years, also the technology has evolved quite a lot. So the tools you were working with back then. I mean, I know Jack and the team at Zuba, obviously, and I like that connectivity, because that whole conversation we had at the festival was all about being more engaged with your surroundings. And as you said, that room of banner stands where it was just very dry, and a lot of people just can't see. You watch it, don't you, on location. People can't see what it could be. So how do you explain that in a city? It's a real problem.
Well, I guess what you're saying about the software changing, that's we have had to keep up with that, but we've also really benefited from that. So we've gone from from the artist drawing in 2D onto to photos that are stitched together, and and only being able to view the drawings, the augmented reality drawings overlaid onto the environment, onto the existing buildings from one location, from one perspective. We've gone from that to now the artist drawing in VR, in Google Geospatial. So they're in a Google Geospatial environment in VR. We're able to bring up a admittedly slightly rough 3D model, Google scan of almost any location fairly immediately for them to draw in. But yeah, they're now drawing in VR, sketching in 3D, which
In
is
real time, because people
like
they
sculpting in
the
real
artist was
time.
in the air, wasn't it? So when people walking
Yeah.
around, they're like, right, let's silly ideas and sensible ideas. Obviously, at Bartishal Festival, it was a bit more tongue in cheek, but let's have a slide in the middle of Queen Square. Why not?
Yeah.
You can.
But for the participants, it now means that whereas you used to have to stand in one specific place in order, for the tracking image to match up and to sort of synchronize with your environment, you can now walk around. You can now explore the 3D models, in the environment and actually explore them spatially. And there is a bit of a cheat. We have also got a library of pre-made sketches that the artist has made. So this process is a little bit speedier because they're able to draw live, but also when people describe things that have come up before, they've got a kind of library of 3D images that they can kind of drop into the AR scene.
Oh, Robin, any questions?
Yeah, absolutely. That was great, Paul. One thing I think in terms of the audience as well, the question will be about perhaps being able to give some advice about where somebody might think about beginning. And by that I mean, if you look at what you're doing, you could probably take out the technology aspect to it, and you've got innovation in terms of the creative process sort of side of things, the interaction with artists. And I think what we definitely see in toolkits is in some of the work and the projects we see is where there are artists being engaged, not necessarily with a technology sort of aspect to it. So if someone was considering integrating a technology into what they are doing, where might they start? If you have any kind of advice on that, or experiences or learnings that you've had over the years.
I suppose two things to say, and one is that yes, in a way, there's a bit like sort of backcasting, to use a sort of futurist term, but we could sort of work backwards, and actually that there would now be a sort of a simpler toolkit, a kind of for instance a sort of paper-based toolkit, much more lo-fi, that would be a sort of facilitation toolkit, or the guidelines for for instance for using kind of science fiction and imagination as a tool for decision making and to involve people in planning, for instance. So that there would be a much lower fi approach, and as you say, also for kind of working with artists. I mean, I think the advice, my advice would be to bring your partner or your collaborator in as early as possible. So that you are kind of co-designing the tool with them, or with and for them, if it's a creative tool set, the creative tool that you're developing. And then I suppose it would be to do that co-design with them iteratively, and to learn by getting stakeholders involved, and also the kind of users or the public who are going to benefit from the tool you're developing. Get them involved, and get them involved early on, and also iteratively, so that you can make changes in light of collaborating with them.
test the idea and then develop based on the feedback you get. Yeah.
Now, just as people are leaving, while we keep talking, I'm just going to put the little prompt up on the screen to make sure people come next week to the low and no code solution, which I've called "Why We Don't Need to Be Techies to Build Tech Anymore." Is it report you're talking about, lo-fi? I think there's a lot you can do without getting technology involved to map out what it needs to look like. But yeah, next week it's going to be low and no code solutions. So taking it further with not being daunted about technology. So even what you're doing, the tech requirement has changed a lot over the last 7 years of what's required to make it achievable. There's different levels of quality, and I know that you and Zuba, the work is absolutely top class. But you can do a lot of rough stuff to get started, can't you, these days with a lot of the tools we've talked about today.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a lot of off-the-shelf tools, for also for sort of immersive work now, which are accessible and can be used without coding skills. So yeah, they're definitely worth
The
exploring.
dark arts are coming down to us mere mortals now, aren't they? That's why I think with all this stuff.
Yeah, certainly.
Well, thank you very much for your time today. And we have got the video that you'd recorded as well. So this is going to be put on the platform, but there's another video that you've done for Robin as well. So, I think it's really interesting to hear. That's why I asked you about the timelines. It's a journey, isn't it? Without sounding too X factor about it. It's evolved. You've met people, you've met collaborations, you found funding, expert advice of Robin. It's all the little pieces, isn't it? But there's
Yeah,
a theme there of collaboration and time.
exactly. And that's also an iterative process and takes kind of time to to test something, to receive feedback, to do evaluation and to reflect and then decide on the next steps. I mean, for instance, we didn't start out thinking we were working towards making a sort of software as a service offer that might be kind of downloadable and that other people could use or could use with our guidance. We set out to to deliver a service, this sort of augmented reality engagement activity. And that's been a really interesting development to think of other ways that we can kind of scale up or scale out this offer and its benefit.
Well, that's really important is that you've allowed that to evolve. Some people get very set on what it's meant to be in inverted commas, whereas you've kind of let it breathe and you've listened and you've collaborated with lots of different people who've given you perspectives. And that sounds really obvious, but it's not always. Some people get very tight as to what it has to be, and then projects don't ever get anywhere. You have to just not be too precious about it and just see what, let it grow.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah. Listen to your collaborators and your partners.
Exactly.
They have different expertise, and also to the public, and the clients and customers, really the people who are using the tools that you're developing. They've also got considerable expertise, and the tools need to work for them and be accessible and usable.
There's a book I love called The Mom Test, which is all about asking good questions. So when you get in front of users, ask them really good questions, so you can really interrogate them to help you evolve your solution or your toolkit or whatever you're putting together. But there's no such thing as right and wrong. There are just perspectives. Yeah, but that's hard sometimes. Robin's smiling. He's gone through that process with people too. I have as well. Right, we shall wrap up and let everyone go and have some lunch and enjoy the sunshine. Thank you very much, Paul. Thank you for everyone who joined us. A lot of it, we did have some people leaving at 1:30 because they obviously saw the time and had to go off to the next meetings, but thank you.